So, today is Mother's Day, and it's May 10th, 2009. And I don't know about some of you, but I have a godly mother, and some of you may not, but let me encourage you to continue to pray for your mom, pray for your dads as well. They'll come to know the Lord through you and your actions and how you live your life. I was very fortunate to have a mom and dad that loved the Lord and brought me to the Lord at a very early age. Took me to church my entire life. There was a time when I stopped going to church after I left the house. And I'll tell you, I thought I was saved for many, many years, and I really wasn't. I was saved in religion, but not saved in a relationship. And the only way you ever make it to heaven to be with Jesus and to be with God, the only way you're ever going to make it is to have a personal relationship, a one-on-one relationship with Jesus Christ. But I asked the Lord, I said, what kind of message would you have me bring on Mother's Day? And I got to looking in the book of Timothy, and there's two books from Timothy. There's 1 Timothy and there's 2 Timothy, and Timothy didn't really have a father figure, but he had a mother figure, and his mother brought him up to know the Lord. And I would say, I guess Timothy was a teenager or early adult, and one thing led to the other. But anyway, Paul kind of took over the father figureship of Timothy. And he knew how much Timothy loved the Lord, and as we know, Timothy was a great evangelist because he went out and evangelized and was inspired to write some of what's in God's Word. And there may be some of you out there like me and like Timothy, and he was made fun of for what he believed, but he stuck to his guns. And I imagine Timothy having some of the problems I had when you go to your relative's home and they kind of always put you like way down here, and you were nothing but everybody was a somebody because you were different. And maybe that's the kind of person that I'm talking to today, that you have those problems and you go through the suffering and the hurt in your heart of feeling rejected. Like today, for instance, or I'll just give you a for instance. You know, you have a relative in your family introducing, saying, "Oh, this is my daughter, and this is my son, and this is my husband, and this is their children, and this is my sister," and da-da-da, and you're standing there, you're like Timothy, and it's like you don't exist. And then Timothy's poor mother says, "Oh, did you introduce Timothy? That's my son. That's my son that loves the Lord." And I can only imagine how Timothy's mother's heart must have broke to see her son treated like that. But she knew one thing. She knew that her son loved Jesus, and she knew that one day that people were going to respect him because Timothy was going to stay strong and stay straight and never waver from God's Word. And that's the kind of person that I am. It's the kind of person I try to be. And that's the kind of person that we all need to try to be. We need to get in God's Word. We need to read it. We need to fall in love with it. And we need to act it out. This is a play. This is the basic instructions before leaving Earth. The BIBLE, basic instruction before leaving Earth. And we need to take some acting classes out of this book, and we need to act them out. There's just one little difference. Instead of acting them out as a religious person, act them out as a person that has a relationship with Jesus. And that's going to make the big difference on the treasures you have stored up in heaven. I wanted to read you something out of Timothy. We go to 2 Timothy chapter 3. And this talks about the dangers in the last days. And it says, you should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times. For people will love only themselves and their money. I believe we're in times like that today, that, people love their brand new cars. And, if the next door neighbor gets a car, then they've got to get one even better than that. Or if they buy a new house, well, we've got to go buy a new house. People are just in love with their money and their items. And that's why I say we are in our last days. And people didn't used to be like that. But in these last days, that's the way people are becoming. They're in love with their money and in love with, all the things that they have. It also says they will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents, and ungrateful. You see these young kids out here today that they are so disobedient. They are so disrespectful to their mother and father. They're disrespectful to their elders. I was following a few vehicles last night, and this guy pulled off the side of the road and he blew his horn at this vehicle and then pulled back out. And a few minutes later he pulled over again and flashed these people the middle finger, and he pulled back in traffic, and he kept doing it. He finally got to me, and he did the same thing to me. And I rode by him real slow and had my window down, and I says, I just want you to know, fella, I love you, and so does Jesus. And the guy just sat there. And so there are people that are disobedient to their parents and disobedient to their elders. And that's because, again, we're in our last days. This is what God's Word says. 2,000 years ago, this book was written, and it's all coming to pass. It also says they will consider nothing sacred. Nothing sacred. They will be unloving and unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. But we can see that today all over the place. People don't have any self-control. Now I watch people pull in a fast food restaurant because they didn't get a straw. This guy backs up 70 miles an hour and goes inside his Chick-fil-A, and he grabs 50 straws and comes out and throws most of them on the ground and puts some in his vehicle. All because somebody forgot to get in the straw. No self-control whatsoever. Very unforgiving. It says they will be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends. They'll be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will, and I want you to listen to this one because there's so much truth in this. In verse 5, they will act religious, but they will reject the power that could make them godly. He says, stay away from people like that. I've had that problem in churches and in Bible studies, and like I've said in previous messages before, that there's so much tradition and religion, and there's no relationship. And when you really get that deep relationship with Jesus Christ, and you really fall in love with Him, your eyes open wide open, and you just look around you, and you're like, wow. No wonder in God's Word it says that few will find that gate. It is a narrow gate, and there are few that are going to find it, and it's so sad. It's so sad for me to know people that are just great and wonderful people, and they're not going to be in heaven. It's just such a sad thing. But I'll tell you, for years and years, the way I was treated like a doormat in my family, and still to this day I am, it used to really anger me, and for many years it just took my self-pride away, and it just hurt me, and I was never able to walk up the ladder. I'd start to walk up that ladder, and then all of a sudden all that bitterness and disgust that I had would come back to me, and it would just drive me down in the ground, and I'd go out and I'd start looking for love all over again, and try to find another wife, and or a girlfriend, and just somebody that would hug me and hold me and love me. And all it did was run me right into the ground. Satan just used that and ran me right in the ground.